What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Your boy Left Lane. Hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip hop. Listen, the discussion to be had, me and my cousin was talking about this. Most times when I come on with a topic or something like that, it's just things that I've had conversations with that I've always wanted to have, with parties outside of my inner circle. I know I don't have followers like that and all that. But listen, I'm open to get a couple. I don't care if it's one. You know what I mean? I'm cool with that. Hell, even if it's none, you know what I'm saying? Just to even get my thoughts out there, you know what I mean? I'm cool with that. But the question is, what me and my cousin was talking about was, would rappers post streaming, post YouTube era, would they be bigger than the rappers that have those tools today? Would they even be even bigger? So those are that was the one of the biggest questions that we were talking about. The other one was, can you consider a rapper that had one or two albums, can they be in the conversation as one of the greatest or greatest of all time? Specifically, I mean, like a Biggie or like a Big Pun, these type of guys. Even the ones that had albums, but they only had one big album, right? As far as can rappers of yesterday be as big as rappers today, because you gotta think rappers today make a lot more money than rappers of yesterday, right? Can those rappers from yesterday be, would they have been as big? If Tupac rapped in this era, came out in this era, would he still be Tupac with all of the how saturated hip hop is now, right? Because that's the argument, right? How, it's so much, it's easy access, it's so much. Like, would he be as big as he is today? Would all these rappers, Snoop, these guys? My argument to that is, yeah, I think they would even be big. Like, think about Tupac in this day and time being Tupac. Because see, that's why it's a hard thing to judge. It's like judging in the NBA. Would Bill Russell be able to dominate in the NBA in this era that he did in his era, or so forth and so on, right? With these players, that Patrick Ewing, would he still be Patrick Ewing in this era, or Tracy McGrady, whoever, Vince Carter, these guys, right? It's kind of the same thing, because you can't just say the era, you have to take into account what's happening in this era. So if you're talking about basketball, you have to look at it and say, okay, well, basketball is a lot more lax. It's a faster game. People are, shooting with 14 seconds left on the shot clock. You can't, body check. You can't do this, you can't do that. They want the game I remember back in the day when we would watch basketball, if you see a game and they hit 100, it was like, whoa, like, oh, they scored 112 points. Like, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? Games was like, I remember games be like a college game, 78 to 69 would be the score. You know what I'm saying? Or 89 to 71 would be the score. You know what I mean? Like, now it'd be like, what? I seen a game the other day, something was like 162, 142. If that would have happened, man, that would have been all over Sports Center. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been the biggest talk in the world. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just did, it's different rules and things like that. So it's hard to just swap out pieces in the eras, right? Now, there are certain players we could definitely say, yeah, he would be able to play in this era no matter what era. You know what I mean? Mike would be able to play in any era. Cole would be able to play in any era. If anything, my argument probably, as far as basketball is concerned, is would the new players be able to play in the old era? Not can the older players play in the new era. In fact, if you took the new players and put them in the old era under those rules, I don't think they would survive at all. I don't think LeBron would survive a day. I really don't. Just being real. I mean, the dude already flops all over the place now. You know what I mean? Just getting hit. Hey. Goes to the back. Hey. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Hey. You know, all of that. Every time you go to the back, nah, you ain't getting, like, you gonna, listen, you do that once. You flop one time in the 90s, they gunning for you. And not just one team. Every team is like, yo, how he do that last night? Oh, nah. Wait till he come here. Everybody will be gunning for you. When you get the Detroit, they hammer. You get the New York, they hammer. You get the Boston, they hammer. Like you gonna get, you do that, nah. I don't even remember nobody flopping in the NBA back then. You know what I mean? You getting your head knocked off. like that. So I don't think the new players could play in that era. You know what I mean? In that older era. Kobe could have played in the 80s, sure. Mike played in the 80s, but I don't see LeBron playing in the 80s. I got a call. Yeah, I don't see LeBron playing in the 80s. I don't see a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? Like these new centers that shooting from three and all of that. Nah, you're not doing that in the 80s. You know what I mean? 90s, you know. But back to hip hop. As far as in hip hop, yeah, I think that these right now it is a different time, because if you're seeing Pac rapping in this era, well, Pac's style would probably be different, right? But he would still be a revolutionary, because see, the thing with Tupac, reason why I said I think Tupac and a lot of these guys they really loved the art of hip hop. They loved music. They loved writing. They loved it. It wasn't just to make money and be flashy. They really had a point to prove. You understand what I'm saying? I don't even know if a lot of people even know, or I'm sure people do. But a lot of newer guys that know Tupac, the newer younger cats, they probably don't even know that Tupac had 2 albums before he even went to jail, before he even became, Machiavelli, the big, blew up. But Tupac had 2 albums. His first album was Tupacalypse Now. That album was fire. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? He didn't have the big time production, the money, and all that, but it was fire. Then he had Strictly for My Niggas. You know what I mean? That's the joint that had I Get Around and, all of that. I think Brenda Got a Baby was on Tupacalypse Now. But that's, when he had Dear Mama and, all of that, that was on Strictly for My Niggas. I remember he had a song on that joint with Ice Cube and Ice-T. One nigga teach 2 niggas, 2 niggas teach 3 niggas, nigga teach more. And when we blasted, it be the biggest blast you heard, and then there's my last words. I remember Pac was doing it like that. So if you was to take that Tupac today and put him on social media, with his reach that he already had, you gotta remember Pac died at like 25 or something like this. So I mean, yeah, he would be out of here. Ridiculous. If you took Big or Jay and put them on social media and streaming, out of here. Now I don't know if Jay would have took advantage of it as much, because Jay wasn't, Jay had his own little funny style. He could be funny and all of that, but he wasn't like a big talker and entertain, on that. He was more into the music, but he had his own little witty style or whatever. But Tupac was vocal, voice. He'd be doing videos. Tupac would have been doing TikToks, all kinds of stuff. You dig what I'm saying? Big probably not so much. But I think all these guys would have definitely been just as big, if not bigger. You know what I mean? A lot of these artists, especially if we're talking about taking that same genre of hip hop and just transferring it to this year and saying, okay, this is because it was so much individuality back then, right? You had to be an individual back then. You couldn't sound like nobody else back then. You just couldn't. I'm talking about cadence, flow, none of that. Beat, sound, stop, dress. You couldn't do none of that. Nothing could be the same. Nothing. Right? Like when Slick Rick came out with all the jewelry and the chains and all of that, nobody else could do that. Nobody else could be like, yo, I'm gonna come out rocking chains and doing all of that. That was his look. That was his thing. Now, everybody can rock a chain and everybody can do it now. You couldn't do that back then. You couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? You would have got annihilated. You dig what I'm saying? Like everybody, you had to be an original. And that's why I say yes, they would have sold so much more because it would have been just their product. Nobody else would have been like that. I remember when Shine first came out. And Shine sounded like Biggie just a little bit. Like a little bit. He was like, nah, B. He sound like, you know what I mean? He sound like homie. And he really didn't. But he had just a little bit of, little flows, but nah, B. Nah, it took him a minute to get traction. Because people was like, yo, he sound too much like Big. I remember when Craig Mack came out. Nah, B, he sound like Redman. Yo, he sound like Busta Rhymes. Nah, B. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't happening. And, what I'm saying is there was rules back then that you had to follow or you were going to get dissed and bad, right? You might even get hopped on because that's how much people really, protected their style. Like, I created this. I created this look. I created this image. I created this whole, you're not going to just jump on and just take it. Nah, now, everybody can do that flow. I remember back when the Migos came out with that, you know what I mean? Skirt, their whole little sound. Everybody was doing it. And that whole bounce. Hey. Everybody was doing it. Doing that bounce. The drill music. Back then, drill would have been just one group. That was their thing. Drill back then would have been, say, Onyx. That would have been Onyx. And nobody else can sound like Onyx. That's it. You can't do it. Anybody else come out sounding like Onyx? Oh, nah, shut it down. You can't do it. Nope. That's it. I remember when MOP came out. And it was like, hold up. Like, people loved MOP out the gate, but it was like, niggas kind of sound like Onyx a little bit with the aggression and, you know what I mean? And, woo. But, they didn't though at the end of the day. They didn't, but it was still like a question. So that's why I think they would have sold and been so much big. I think they would have been bigger than the artists today that's on social media because of the originality. I think that would have sold even more, right? Because you wouldn't have been able to go hear another Big or anything like Big. You wouldn't be able to go hear another Pac or anything like Pac or another Snoop or anything like Snoop or another Cube or anything like Cube. Like, you just wouldn't hear it. Like, they had their own package and that's what it was going to be. You couldn't do it. You wasn't going to hear another Big Daddy Kane. You know what I mean? Another Rakim. I remember back when Rakim was out and Parrish Smith from EPMD, people was like, yo, you know what I mean? Kind of sound like Rakim a little bit, son. You know what I'm saying? And he really didn't. They both from the same place, but he really didn't, but he did a little bit. But just a little bit. It was like, nah, you sound like, you know what I mean? and they kind of had their little words on record or whatever. When Rakim said something about, sound like the art, whatever, and said something about, you get smacked for that. And then Parrish Smith said in his record, yo, you smack me and I'll smack you back. They had their little spat. I remember when, not only that, there was rules on what you could do with hip hop, right? Like, you couldn't turn hip hop. They wanted to keep hip hop street. You couldn't turn hip hop into R&B. You could dance, party, because that was all part of hip hop. But as far as that R&B stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and singing and all of that, all of that type of stuff, and trying to be all GQ'd up and, and all that, switching up like that, nah, they wasn't going for it. You could dance, but within hip hop, not with this whole, you know what I mean? Like, they wasn't going for that. I remember EPMD when that Big Daddy Kane. People don't know that song, The Crossover, was a shot at Big Daddy Kane, because Big Daddy Kane was always cool, solid. I remember Kane used to date the sister of a girl I used to date, a Latino chick. She was in Biz Markie's video. She was a vixen or whatever in Biz Markie video. I think Kane even came in the video and put his arm around her, something like that in the video. That was a chick that I was dating named Mildred Gonzalez, and she was her older sister, and they was, whatever. But anyway, so I remember when Kane, because Kane was always mad cool, the cuts, the rings, and all that, and Big Daddy Kane was the man. But then when he came out with that forget the name of the song he had came out with. Can't remember the song. I can't remember the song. But anyway, he came out with a song, and soon he dropped that joint, EPMD came out with The Crossover. Whatever you need, whatever, The Crossover. You know what I'm saying? Like, that joint was, that joint was fire. You know what I'm saying? But that's how it was. You didn't have if somebody thought you was crossing the line a little bit, they was on you. It wasn't no biting back then. I remember when Biggie came out with the Ready to Die, and he had a little baby on there. You know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang went that big. Yo, nah, he jocking son, you know what I mean? Because Nas had the little baby picture of him on his album. So they was like, nah, he jocking son. Like, nah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like that. They didn't care who you was. You was getting it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't do that back then. You know what I mean? Originality was just that important back then. You know what I mean? Like, I remember Boot Camp Click, Helter Skelter, and all of them. I remember they came at big. I remember one time they even had a dude in the video dressed like Big, looking like Big or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They came at Big because they didn't like, how he was bending hip hop with the samples and making it all, you know what I mean? They ain't like that. You know what I mean? Hip hop, they wanted to stay street. It didn't matter who you was. Like, it was guidelines and rules. Now, you could do whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I remember Jay-Z tried to keep it going. And I think this is when it was over. Like, the gates they was already kicking the door in, and then when Jay did this and it didn't do what it was supposed to do, and other rappers did, few rappers tried to jump in with him, but it wasn't enough. But when Jay dropped that song, Def to Auto-Tune, DOA, that was a call to arms. That was a call to arms. That was a call for all real hip-hop heads to attack what was going on. And rappers just didn't do it. Like, I remember Jada maybe came out and said something about ringtone rap, this ain't the season, and a few rappers here and there, even Game tried, when he was like, yo, keep snapping your fingers. You better keep snapping your fingers to make up a dance or something like that, or whatever. Like, they, it was a few cats tried, but it just wasn't enough. And they kicked the door and it was over. Because when Jay dropped DOA, that record was so hard. So hard. Probably Jay-Z's hardest record. The beat, that joint was hard. Man. That might be one of my favorite Jay-Z records. That probably is my favorite Jay-Z record right there, man. That joint was hard. And Auto-Tune took off after that. Like, Auto-Tune took off after that. Like, you know what I mean? Yo, you T-Painting too much. Auto-Tune took off after that. I think the dudes that was kind of primarily doing Auto-Tune that did a video, did an interview, and they was like, yo, our sales is up such and such since that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, everybody was like, man, hell with that. We get money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we about to get this Auto-Tune money. We ain't trying to hear what you talking about. You know what I'm saying? And you had, because you got to think, you had Lil Wayne doing Auto-Tune and, all of that. He's singing on records, doing Auto-Tune. It was just too much. And just wasn't enough artists that was fighting it. You know what I'm saying? And we lost the originality. And once we lost originality, You know, it was like hip hop was just out of control when it's where it is today. I do think that bars is back a little bit, but I don't even know what's on the radio. I haven't listened to radio in years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Years. Like, I can't even tell you who's on the radio now, what's playing on the radio. I have no idea. You know what I'm saying? But back then, you know, you could put the radio on. You could, man, back then, you could have a barbecue and put the radio on. And it'd be rocking all the way through. Like, you know what I mean? You got commercial here and there, but it's rocking. You know the song is rocking. Now I don't know what the hell's going on with the mute radio stations now. So, but yeah, I definitely think you know, with social media and all of that, I think the artists back then would have been even bigger if we're transitioning it from as it was back then to now, meaning like the originality and all that. I think it would have been even bigger, just because, like I said, everybody had their individual, you know, niche, right? You didn't have another crew like Boot Camp Click. That was their thing, right? You didn't have another crew like, you know, Onyx. That was their thing. You didn't have another crew like BDP or Public Enemy. These guys, that was their thing. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't have, it was everybody, it was all individuality back then. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't another Ice Cube. You know what I mean? Like now, I don't know, I can't tell who rapping now. You know what I'm saying? They all sound the same. Even groups, right? Even a 3-man group like the Migos, they all sound the same to me. There was some that was better than others, but they all rap, you know, all, you know what I mean? But back then, you didn't do that. Paris Smith didn't rap like Eric. You know what I'm saying? Even the Locks, they don't sound, none of them sound the same. Like even within the group, it's an individual sound. Look at the Onyx, they didn't all rap. They all rap with energy, but they didn't rap the same. You know what I'm saying? Like it was all different. Everybody had their own, you know, originality. You know what I mean? You didn't have another Pete Rock and CL Smooth. You know, you had that duo like Gang Starr, but nobody else rapped like that. Like, you know what I mean? So everybody was all different, had their own niche, and you had to create that first. Before you could even get on, you had to create your own lane first. You had to fight for your own lane first. And now we lost that. I mean, hip hop is just taking a you know, a huge hit. But you know, there's some new guys I like. You know what I mean? That got their own, you know, thing and all of that. I like Big X the Plug. I like him. I feel like, you know, I don't think nobody else sounds like him. You know what I mean? Maybe that his cadence, his pattern, but not his voice and his bounce. I think he got his own thing. I mean, it's a few I think that do. I think we kind of got through that era a little bit. I think Wayne was a big component of it. I think so many rappers thought they could emulate Wayne and just do what he do, and it was just going to take off. You know, if they sound like Wayne, it was going to take off. You know what I mean? And you know, instead of just being inspired by Wayne, it was like, yo, I gotta sound like Wayne. I gotta, you know what I mean? And, you know, all of that, you know, so, but I think we passed that. And I think we're starting to get a little bit more originality back into hip hop. And I think that's, you know, that's a good thing. But I definitely think rappers today would have sold in this era. Now, I don't think rappers from this era would have did as well in that era. I really don't. Not sounding the same and everybody doing the same thing, looking the same. You know, everybody got locks and everybody doing the same thing, same look and same everything. I just think I don't think it would have worked. You know what I mean? I think it would have been way too, you know, too saturated. You know what I'm saying? You know, imagine having 15 guys all sounding just like Big and having the same style as Big, or 15 guys sounding just like Pac, rapping like Pac, talking about the same things Pac talk. It just wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean? That's why these guys are so beloved, and they are beloved to this day. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't even name right off the top of my head 10 artists that came out past 2015. I couldn't even name 10 of them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a hip hop head, and I couldn't name 10 of them. Like, maybe if you help, maybe if you gave me maybe an hour or so, I might be able to come up with it. But that's just what it is. But anyway, man, that was it. I just wanted to get on here and rap about that, man. You know, man. Again, man, if anybody happened to see the video and, you know what I mean, you dig, man, post something in the comment. You agree, disagree. We can, you know, chop it up about it. If you got a subject that you want to put out there, let me know, man. I'll talk on it. I don't know if I got enough subscribers to go live yet, but if I get enough subscribers, I go live. I'll do lives and do live chats, and I don't know how to bring people on and do all of that, but if I get to that point, man, hell yeah, I'll do that, man, and we'll chop it up. If we get to the point where we can monetize, man, that'd be cool too. We could, I'm cool on the dough, but it'll be, we could donate it to boys and girl clubs, or we'll vote on that as a community. Who we donating to this month, and who we gonna take care of this month, whatever. You know what I mean? We'll do all that. You know what I mean? If somebody got a family member that might be in need or something like that, all right, we gonna throw whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? I just really would like to have a little audience, man. We can talk, chop it up about hip hop, chop it up about things in life. You know what I mean? Because this is a hip hop mainly. I'm gonna be talking about hip hop on here and things that impact hip hop, but not just us though. When I think of hip hop, I think of it as a culture, our culture. So I'm not just talking about just the music. I'm talking about the fashion, the dress, the way we talk, our communities, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Our thought process, how we think, how we're raised. All of that is hip hop to me. You dig what I'm saying? So it's a lifestyle. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be talking about. I like to get into all of that. You dig what I'm saying? And it's just conversation, man. It's just something to talk about. You know what I mean? I think it's healthy. You dig what I'm saying? So anyway, man, listen, man, I'm out of here, man. Y'all be good, be safe.